Let's speak plainly. The woman who can detach communicates something profound. She knows her worth. And in any human relationship, perceived value is everything. In psychology, we talk about value not as arrogance, but as self-possession. It's the capacity to stand as a complete person without needing to be propped up by someone else's attention or approval. And that's what detachment ultimately reflects. It's not about being cold, manipulative, or indifferent. It's about maintaining your identity and integrity even when the emotional stakes are high. Now let's clarify what we mean by detachment. It doesn't mean you don't feel. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means that your decisions are not dictated by fear of abandonment or the need to be chosen. Detachment means that you choose yourself first, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. When a woman practices detachment, she communicates a powerful internal message, and I am the prize. I know what I bring to the table, and I am not afraid to eat alone. That mindset doesn't repel men, it magnetizes the right kind of men. Because healthy, high-integrity men are not looking for someone to complete them. They are drawn to a woman who is already whole. Think of it in terms of basic human behavior. People value what they have to earn. When something is too easily given, it's often unconsciously devalued. It's a sad truth, but a real one. We don't chase what chases us. We chase what challenges us. And detachment, when grounded in self-worth, becomes that challenge. It says, I don't need you. I choose you, but only if you show up properly. You see, most women are trained, explicitly or subtly, to believe their value is tied to their ability to keep a man interested. So they overextend, they overgive, they overexplain. They tolerate poor treatment because they've been conditioned to think that holding on is strength. But in reality, strength is in the letting go. In knowing that if something costs your peace, your self-worth, or your dignity, it's too expensive. And here's where the deeper psychological truth kicks in. When a woman is willing to walk away, it reveals that she has a solid internal world. She's not grasping. She's not emotionally starving. She's not begging to be seen. That makes her rare, and rarity is the foundation of value. If anyone can have it, it's cheap. But if it's earned, if it's protected, if it's selective, suddenly it becomes precious. Now let's flip it. What happens when a woman lacks this kind of detachment? She tolerates breadcrumbing. She stays in emotionally unavailable relationships. She sacrifices her standards just to avoid being alone. And over time, that behavior teaches the man exactly how little he has to invest to keep her around. That's not loyalty, it's self-abandonment. And men, whether they realize it or not, lose respect for it. Respect is the cornerstone of lasting attraction. Without it, desire dies, and nothing commands respect more than the willingness to walk away from anything that doesn't align with your values. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about being hard to get because you've done the work to become emotionally independent. That's not a game. That's maturity. So, when a woman detaches, she's not just creating space for a man to pursue her. She's setting the terms of engagement. She's saying, this is how I expect to be treated, and if you can't meet that, I'll be fine without you. That kind of internal authority is deeply attractive, because it represents something many people secretly crave, a grounded, self-respecting presence. Detachment isn't avoidance, it's clarity. It's the refusal to beg for crumbs when you know you're capable of a feast. It's not walking away from love, it's walking toward healthy love, even if that means walking alone for a while. The woman who can detach is dangerous, in the best possible way, because she's not controlled by scarcity. She operates from abundance. She knows there are plenty of men out there, but only a few who will meet her standards, and she's willing to wait, or walk, and that, paradoxically, makes her irresistible. Let's get something clear right away. Emotional intensity is not the same as emotional strength. In fact, the person who cannot regulate their emotions, who lashes out, breaks down, or clings when things get uncertain, is not displaying passion or depth. They're revealing a lack of structure inside themselves. In contrast, the woman who can remain grounded in the face of relational tension, who can feel deeply without being ruled by those feelings, is powerful. She's not numb. She's not detached in a cold or avoidant way. She simply knows how to hold her center. And that is rare. And that is magnetic. You see, in intimate relationships, emotions rise fast. They should. That's what makes them real. But when those emotions are undisciplined, unmanaged, or projected onto the other person, the connection quickly turns toxic. And what begins as chemistry ends in chaos. A woman who has mastered emotional self-regulation knows something most don't. Not every feeling deserves a reaction. Not every anxious thought deserves to be spoken. Not every moment of doubt requires a dramatic confrontation. Instead, she learns to pause. She learns to investigate her inner world. She learns to respond, not react. And this kind of strength, this emotional composure, is deeply attractive to men. Not just because it's peaceful, but because it's rare. Here's the psychology behind it. Human beings are wired to seek stability. Men in particular are drawn to women who provide emotional safety, not the kind of safety that means walking on eggshells to avoid an outburst, but the kind that comes from knowing she's got herself, that even in conflict she can navigate with calm, clarity, and respect. In contrast, emotional volatility, crying, screaming, passive aggressiveness, impulsive behavior may feel cathartic in the moment, but it communicates a message: I don't know how to regulate myself, so I need you to do it for me. That's not attractive. That's pressure. And eventually it becomes suffocating. Let's be honest. No man wants to feel like he's dating an emotional landmine, unsure of when the next explosion is coming. And yet, many women mistake this kind of instability for just being honest, or us expressing how I feel. But raw expression without self-awareness is not vulnerability. It's emotional dumping. Now, this isn't about silencing your emotions or pretending to be unaffected. On the contrary, it's about developing emotional maturity. It's about being able to say, I'm feeling triggered, but I'm going to sit with this for a moment before I speak. Or, I'm feeling insecure, but I'm not going to demand that you fix it. I'm going to explore where it's coming from. This kind of behavior doesn't just command respect, it teaches others how to relate to you. Because when you are emotionally grounded, you create a space where connection can thrive. You become safe. You become consistent. And men, especially emotionally healthy men, are drawn to that consistency like a moth to flame. More than beauty, more than charm. Emotional self-regulation is one of the most attractive qualities a woman can develop, because it means she doesn't need constant reassurance. She doesn't make him responsible for her inner world. She can walk through fire without falling apart. This isn't about becoming robotic or suppressing emotion. It's about learning how to own your emotional experience without allowing it to dominate the room. It's about stepping into your feminine power, not through chaos, but through composure, not through noise, but through presence. A woman who has this power doesn't chase. She doesn't panic. She doesn't perform. She moves with quiet confidence. She knows that emotional discipline is not a rejection of emotion, but it's proper stewardship. That's what makes her unshakable, and that's what makes her irresistible. In the end, emotional self-regulation is not about perfection. You will still get triggered. You will still feel hurt. But the question is, can you hold yourself through it? Can you breathe through the storm instead of becoming it? If you can, you're already miles ahead of most. Because the woman who can hold her emotional frame no matter what the relationship throws at her becomes a pillar, not just for herself, but for any man strong enough to stand beside her. And that right there is power. Neediness kills mystery, detachment restores it, expanded. There's something deeply human about our craving to be desired. We all want to be seen, to be chosen, to be loved. But in the pursuit of closeness, many women make a fatal mistake. They confuse availability with attractiveness. And in doing so, they lose the very quality that made them compelling in the first place: mystery. Let's be blunt. Neediness is repellent. It doesn't matter how beautiful, kind, or smart you are, if you're energetically clinging, over-texting, overthinking, and constantly needing validation, it erodes attraction. Fast. It makes a man feel cornered, suffocated, and eventually disinterested. Why? Because neediness signals lack. It says, see, I don't feel whole without you. And that is not love. That is dependency dressed up as affection. Now contrast that with a woman who is detached, not indifferent, not emotionally closed off, but energetically non-attached to the outcome. She's not chasing, she's not performing, she's not anxiously analyzing every move he makes. She's present but not desperate, engaged but not entangled, and that creates a powerful, irresistible, dynamic mystery. Mystery isn't about playing games. It's about holding something sacred. Your time, your energy, your emotional access. It's the ability to not reveal everything at once. It's the quiet confidence that says, there is more to me than what you've seen, but you'll have to earn the right to see it. Let's talk biology and psychology. Humans, men especially, are wired to pursue what they find challenging. We are hunters by instinct. When something is freely available, we lose interest. It's not about cruelty or manipulation. It's about perceived value. The woman who is always available, always accommodating, always checking in, she becomes predictable, and what's predictable becomes ordinary. On the other hand, the woman who can detach, who can step back, center herself, and not chase, remains intriguing. She activates curiosity. What is she thinking? What is she doing? Why isn't she seeking my approval? That's the kind of tension that fuels attraction. You see, when you're overly available, you remove the emotional polarity. You collapse the space between you and the man. And in doing so, you eliminate the tension that desire needs to breathe. Real passion, real connection. It grows in space, not in suffocation. Here's a hard truth. If you have to work hard to be seen, you're already losing your mystery. Real feminine power isn't in chasing love. It's in attracting it by being rooted in your own presence. Detachment gives you the freedom to stop grasping, to stop begging, to stop convincing someone to stay, and ironically, that's what makes them want to stay. Detachment also breaks the cycle of self-abandonment. When you're constantly giving yourself away in hopes that someone will finally see your worth, you're training them to view you as always accessible. But when you detach, when you no longer overinvest in people who underinvest in you, you reclaim your dignity, and in that reclamation you become infinitely more attractive. Detachment gives you leverage, not in a manipulative way, but in a self-respecting way. You no longer fear silence. You no longer rush to fix things. You no longer mold yourself to be what he wants. You allow space, and in that space, truth is revealed. If he values you, he'll rise to meet you. If he doesn't, he'll drift, and you'll have lost nothing worth keeping. Think about that. Mystery is not about being a puzzle or playing hard to get. It's about having boundaries. It's about having a life, a mission, a soul so alive that no man becomes your entire world. That is what keeps him interested. That is what sustains desire. And here's the final truth. The woman who detaches doesn't lose men. She filters them. The ones who are only interested in her availability will fall away. The ones who are captivated by her depth, her wholeness, her mystery, they'll lean in. They'll pursue. Not because she begged for it, but because her presence demanded it. So if you want to keep your mystery alive, don't chase, don't overshare, don't smother the connection with constant reassurance. Let him wonder, let him reach, let him work for the privilege of knowing you. That's not a game, that's self-respect. And nothing is more seductive than a woman who respects herself enough to remain a mystery. Detachment is the gateway to authentic love expanded. Here's a hard but liberating truth. You cannot experience real love until you've learned how to live without it. You cannot build an honest, lasting connection with another person until you've stopped needing them to complete you. This is where detachment becomes not just useful, but essential. Now let's be clear. Detachment is not apathy. It's not avoidance. It's not giving up on love or not caring. That's emotional immaturity wearing a mask. Real detachment is the ability to love someone without becoming enslaved to them. It's about being in the relationship without losing yourself in it. Most people are not in love. They're in attachment. They're addicted to the presence of another person because they fear being alone. They confuse codependence with intimacy. And when that person pulls away, they collapse. Why? Because they weren't standing on their own to begin with. A woman who practices detachment doesn't love less, she loves better. Why? Because her love is not rooted in fear. She's not driven by the fear of abandonment or the obsession with being chosen. She already chose herself. So if she loves you, it's not because she needs to, it's because she wants to. And that difference, that's where authentic love lives. Authentic love only exists between two people who are capable of standing alone. It requires freedom. It requires sovereignty. It requires two individuals who are not using each other to fill a hole inside themselves. When you detach, you stop grasping for love and you start offering it without strings, without conditions, without fear-based demands. But let's be honest, this isn't easy. Most women are taught, subtly or directly, that their worth is tied to how much they can give, how much they can endure, how tightly they can hold on. So they tolerate behavior that chips away at their dignity. They stay when they should walk away. They call it loyalty. But in truth, it's often fear. Detachment shatters that cycle. When you detach, you say, I will not lose myself for love. You put yourself back at the center of your life. You realize that your peace, your growth, and your purpose matter as much, if not more, than keeping a relationship alive. That mindset is magnetic, because real men are not attracted to women who give everything away. They're drawn to women who know their value and protect it. A woman who practices detachment doesn't chase. She attracts. She doesn't manipulate. She aligns. And if the connection begins to degrade, she doesn't cling. She releases with grace, because she trusts that nothing real will ever require her to abandon herself. This kind of woman is rare. She doesn't engage in emotional warfare. She doesn't beg for affection. She doesn't make someone else responsible for her joy. She's full on her own. And from that fullness, she gives love, not to fix, not to bind, but to connect. And that's the paradox. When you detach from needing someone, you open yourself to freely loving them, without resentment, without hidden agendas, without needing to control the outcome. Detachment also gives you clarity. You begin to see the person in front of you, instead of projecting your fantasies or fears onto them. You stop trying to make them a 1%, and start observing whether they're truly aligned with your values. You stop making excuses for red flags because you're not afraid to walk away. You're not in survival mode. You're in alignment. And here's the best part. When you're no longer afraid to lose someone, you stop settling for half-hearted love. You stop accepting breadcrumbs. You stop fighting for a seat at a table you've outgrown. You raise your standards, not as a test, but as a reflection of your own growth. So understand this: detachment is not the end of love. It is the beginning of mature, conscious, powerful love. It is the ability to sit across from someone fully open-hearted and say, I love you, but I don't need you. I choose you, but I will never chase you. I'm here, but only if it's mutual. And if it's not, I will walk away whole. That's not cold. That's self-respect. That's power. And that's the kind of love that actually lasts, because it's built on truth, not desperation. So if you want real love, start with this: detach. Not to disconnect, but to connect in a way that honors both your heart and your soul.